Guys of Reddit, what did your girlfriend's dad do to establish dominance? Found out he was a high-ranking official for the Secret Service in Poland during the Soviet era. He doesn't have to do anything more to terrify me. There were 3 urinals. He pissed in the one next to me. My piss froze in the middle of my urethra, and I stood there looking like a dumbass. Real power move. Checkmate. He actually didn't do anything himself to terrify me, but my girlfriend did it for him. She told me all about how her grandfather, his dad, was a legitimate lumberjack and how he, her dad, was pretty much one too. He chopped wood for fun and at one point his arms were so big that he had to cut the sleeves off his flannel shirts. He also used to bow hunt, camp for days, and works out a lot. He's the manliest man I personally know, which is a stark contrast to me. He is a really nice guy and has only made me feel slightly uncomfortable with his sarcasm. Clammed up, basically acted as if I wasn't there, and if I did talk to him, I got single word answers. This is an actual conversation when I was stuck in a car with him. What do you do? Sales. Been doing that a long time? Yes. How many years? 30. Retiring soon? Yep. What are you planning to do when you retire? Florida. We're in Florida. West. So, like, Tampa? Yep. My girlfriend gets a text the next day from him saying I'm a great guy and he's happy she's dating me. He was already in Florida. Florida man. I was 17 at the time and was really into his 16-year-old daughter. He sat me down at his kitchen table for what I thought would be a talk. Instead, he pulls out a length of rope and demonstrates step by step how to tie a proper noose for hanging someone. Whoa, thanks man. I can kill myself now. Shook my hand real firm and asked hello, are you fricking my daughter in your apartment? No introduction, wouldn't let go without an answer. I'm really tall and here's a short stocky wrestler. 14 years later. Still together. Just answer the question, it's been 14 years and I'm sure your hands are killing you. OP's username checks out. No, I sneak into her bedroom through her window and frick her in your house. Watching a movie with my girlfriend. I'm wearing my Alabama hoodie and he saw it. We were in the basement and she got a text from him which was a picture of a bed with all Alabama covers, pillows, etc. With the caption, when you're ready for a exy night with your cousin. I took the hoodie off and left in shame afterwards. Don't you hate when your uncles are a-holes? Roll Tide. Pretty funny, honestly. Told me he worked for the Ministry of Defense. That his job was very high security clearance and potentially dangerous. Basically portrayed himself as a kind of badass spy, and he'd publish some papers on counterterrorism methods, so it at least kind of tied together with his academic interests. I never really found out what his actual job was, or if he was bulleting me. But I do know that his daughter didn't know much more than I did, and that she was unable to legally declare his income for the purposes of student finance assessments, which does kind of support the idea that his salary isn't supposed to be a matter of public record. There was a guy who worked in my old building named Donnie that had worked there for like 40 years and no one knows what he does. He outlasted everyone who worked there before him, so we have no one to ask. Here's a rundown of what we know. He has a corner office with a window 1 floor above mine. He had a secretary years ago, but she retired and he declined having a new one and just got added to another secretary's responsibilities. He almost never got any calls, like maybe 15 in the years I worked there. His claim to have made over $150k a year. His title is Director of Assets Management, which I think he made up for himself. He doesn't have anything to do with our accounting or financial department. When asked what he does, he laughs and says, I kill people. I sat with his wife once at a retirement party and I asked her and she said I'm not really sure on the specifics, but something to do with contract negotiations and somehow that involves killing people. When he retired they eliminated the position and delegated his duties to other members of the office. None of whom really understood what their new duties were, and while I was there it never came up. I had a theory, but I've since left the job so I was never able to confirm. I will say I think he might actually kill people. Maybe he did a big favor for the government, like kill someone. or testify against a powerful figure, and the cushy non-job was his reward. Or he blackmailed someone into giving him a sinecure. Literally none of the girls I dated had dads, either by death or by divorce. I wonder what this says about me? You killed their dads? There can be only one. Oh my god. Run. Haven't even exchanged names yet. The guy puts his finger on my chest. I look down and of course flips it up into my face. Laughs too hard. I was not expecting that, but it's just who this guy is. Thank you for giving me what I'm going to do to all my future daughter's boyfriends. Cause that it is hilarious. It's been so long since I've seen anyone do this. I feel like people are no longer on high alert. I'm gonna bring it back and freaking get everyone. Younger kids especially don't know this one and don't expect it. My son has used it in hockey games as a counter chirp. It's hilarious. A dad cleaned a pistol in front of me. That said, I thought that he already knew that my dad was a cop, and that he figured I thought guns were cool, which was true. I truly thought he was trying to relate to me. In hindsight, I guess not. When I was 18 I went over to my girlfriend's parents' house for dinner in rural Montana to meet her parents for the first time. My girlfriend knocks on the door. Her dad answered the door with a 12 gauge. Looks me dead in the eye and says, "So you're the guy who's been banging my daughter?" Girlfriend shakes her head and walks into the house, leaving me on the porch with her dad. After about 4 seconds of me trying not to piss myself, he laughed and told me he had been waiting 18 years to do that. I guess it had been a running joke in the family that he was going to meet whatever boy she brought home at the door with a shotgun, and I was the first boyfriend she had brought home. I actually found it pretty funny once my heart rate settled to below heart attack levels. They are a pretty liberal family of artists who are really open about sexuality, and I ended up living in a teepee in their backyard for a summer. It's still joked about 20 years later. While his daughter and I are no longer together, we dated for about 4 years. I am still very close with her and her family and stop by whenever I'm in the area. Not gonna lie, the backyard teepee was a twist that I did not see coming. That sounds like a cool family. My ex-father-in-law never did anything to really establish dominance. He shook my hand and looked at me and asked how I was doing. About 7 months later, when she was my girlfriend, we went and told him and her mother that she was pregnant, but we had already started saving extra money and had a plan for when the baby was born. This was in 2002. He once again shook my hand and thanked me for actually being a real man. Eventually he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and we moved in with them so we could keep a better eye on him. I ended up with not only another father figure like my grandfather, but a best friend. We did everything together and had a lot of fun. We'd pick on each other so much it would easily get out of hand, much to the rolling of eyes of our respective wives. He went missing a couple of times, went for a walk and got turned around, and then went for a drive and got lost. I was terrified, but kept my composite and didn't stop looking until we found him. Hours later, he was a stereotypical Texan with a lot of guns, cowboy boots and hats, but with a heart the size of Texas itself to match. Fun fact: when his daughter, my wife, ended up cheating on me, which led to separation and divorce, she thought it was okay to bring the new guy around a couple of months after our daughter and I moved back near my family. He excused himself and come back with one of his shotguns and simply proclaimed, "You're not nemesises," and the guy actually pissed himself. He told me about it later on the phone, cracking up, and he said, "I'm not as far gone as they think sometimes," and he told me that I will forever be his son. I miss that Texan bastard. That's really sweet. Sorry your marriage had to end like that, though sounds like that Texan bastard was the bigger loss. They're sad. My wife moved out almost immediately and our daughter and I stayed there for 2 more years, because I wasn't going to disrupt his life nor my daughter's life anymore. We had great times in spite of everything. Upvote for dust in my eye. He sat on the couch and watched house remodeling shows on HGTV while eating bags of candy. My father just happened to be cleaning his guns and trying out his bore sight when I brought my boyfriend home the first time. A table full of rifles and shotguns. My boyfriend's reaction was "oh neat," and they talked about the guns for an hour. They went without me to a blacksmithing festival recently. I think all I did was bring home a friend for my dad. Can relate. My dad and husband instantly became best friends when they first met. I recently asked my dad what makes him most proud of me and he said you married a great guy. I flew overseas to meet my wife's family and ask for her hand in marriage. Made reservations at one of the fancier restaurants in town and asked him to meet me there for a talk. Should add that I was unemployed and completely broke. He pulls up in a BMW, tires screeching, and tells me to get in. I protest that we have reservations, and he says to forget about them. He takes me to a really simple coffee shop, says that I don't need to impress him with fancy it. I tell him that I love his daughter, and will always make sure that she is happy. He just looks at me for a long time, not saying anything. Finally, he says, I don't know you, but I know my daughter, and she's really smart. So many guys wanted to marry her, and she turned them down. If she sees something in you, then I'm all for it. We shook hands, and then we drove to the supermarket so I could help him haul a ton of groceries. My wife and I have been married for 15 years, and he's always been a complete gentleman to me. Even though I showed up in his city completely broken, jobless, lived under his roof and ate his food, he never once made me feel that he was doing me some kind of favor, or that I was anyone but a valued member of the family. And this despite the fact that he has a nasty temper and never holds his tongue with anyone else. I worked my ass off and got back on my feet, and my wife made big leaps in her career as well, and eventually we moved back to the States. He continues to be my ideal of what a real man should be. I hope to treat my own daughter's husband as well as he treated me. It was all a trick to get you to help carry the groceries. Bet you feel pretty stupid now. Real men carry all the groceries in one trip.